You've been giving away your power your whole life, and you didn't even notice it. Every time you reacted to someone who didn't deserve your reaction. Every time you explained yourself to people who were never going to understand anyway. Every moment you wasted your precious energy on the wrong people, the wrong drama, the wrong fights. You handed them a piece of yourself, a piece of your power, a piece of your peace, and they took it without hesitation, without gratitude, without remorse. But today, right now, that stops. That cycle ends. I'm about to reveal to you 7 dark psychology tricks that Machiavelli himself studied, refined, and weaponized centuries ago. Tricks designed to let you dominate any situation without ever raising your voice in confrontation, to win battles without ever stepping onto the battlefield, and to become completely untouchable simply by mastering when, and to whom, you choose to reveal your presence, your attention, your energy. See, the vast majority of people operate on autopilot their entire lives. Someone insults them, instant reaction. Someone questions their choices, immediate explanation. Someone tries to drain their emotional battery. They allow it, engage with it, feed it. They genuinely believe they're being strong by jumping into every skirmish. They think they're being intelligent by defending every accusation. But they're wrong, dead wrong. The real power players, the ones who actually move the world, operate on an entirely different frequency. They don't react. They don't explain. They don't waste even a single second entertaining people who don't matter. They guard their attention like it's the rarest, most valuable resource in existence. Because it is. Think about this deeply for a second. Every billionaire you've ever admired, every commanding historical leader, every person who seems genuinely untouchable in this chaotic world, they all share one unspoken superpower: ruthless selectivity. They don't respond to every message. They don't show up to every event. They don't hand out their energy like it's free candy. And that deliberate scarcity is exactly what makes them magnetic. Magnetic in a way that pulls people in without them ever having to chase. Machiavelli understood this principle over 500 years ago. He observed that true power is never about being the loudest voice in the room. It's never about proving your worth to every single doubter or critic who crosses your path. Real power is quiet. Real power is selective. Real power is coldly strategic. And today, you're finally going to learn how to claim it for yourself. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to break down, step by step, 7 transformative lessons that will completely rewire the way you interact with the world around you. You'll discover exactly how to make people become obsessed with you, without you ever having to say a single word. You'll understand why silence is infinitely more dangerous and devastating than the cleverest comeback you could ever deliver. You'll master the art of strategic withdrawal so that people start chasing you instead of the other way around. This isn't about becoming cold-hearted. This isn't about cruelty for cruelty's sake. This is about reclaiming total control over your life. This is about shifting from a place of unconscious reaction to unbreakable power. This is about evolving into the kind of person no one can manipulate, no one can control, and, most importantly, no one can ignore. Right now, I want you to commit to this change. Drop this affirmation in the comments below. I control my power. Let's begin. Number 1. Guard your attention like gold. We start with the most foundational rule of all true power. Your attention is currency, literal, psychological, and emotional currency. And just like physical money, the moment you start throwing it around carelessly, recklessly, thoughtlessly, you become broke. Emotionally broke, mentally broke, energetically broke. Here's the brutal truth. Almost nobody teaches you. Every single time you give someone your attention, you're making a deliberate investment. You're spending your mental focus, your emotional bandwidth, your finite hours, all of it, on that person or that situation. And like any serious investment, you have to ask yourself one cold, hard question: what exactly am I getting in return? Most people never ask that question. Never. They hand their attention out to anyone who demands it. A random hater drops a nasty comment. They fire back. A toxic person starts stirring drama. They jump right in. Someone shows them disrespect. They waste the next 3 hours crafting the perfect, devastating comeback. And what do they actually receive in return? Nothing, zero, nada, except elevated cortisol, mounting frustration, and irreplaceable time forever lost. Machiavelli understood something most modern people still refuse to accept. The person who controls where their attention flows ultimately controls their entire life. Because attention isn't just focus, it's power. When you voluntarily give someone your attention, you're literally handing them influence over your emotions, your thoughts, your mood, your energy levels. Think about the people in your life who constantly drain you dry. The perpetual victims who always have a new crisis, the chronic complainers who criticize everything you do, the emotional vampires who only reach out when they need something. Now ask yourself honestly, what have any of them ever given you in return for all the attention you've poured into them? Have they made your life richer? Have they accelerated your growth? Have they added real, tangible value? The honest answer, for most of us, is a resounding no. Yet they keep receiving your attention anyway. Why? Because you haven't yet learned to be ruthlessly selective. Here's what the true power players do differently. They install a strict mental filter. Not everyone gets access. Not everyone gets a response. Not everyone gets even a sliver of their time. Before granting attention to anyone or anything, they ask one simple, non-negotiable question: does this person or this situation deserve my energy? If the answer is no, and it usually is, they move on instantly. No explanation, no justification, no second guessing, no guilt. This is exactly where almost everyone messes up. They believe, deep down, that they owe the world their attention. They feel obligated to reply to every text, every comment, every passive-aggressive jab, every attempt to drag them into pointless drama. They think that ignoring someone makes them rude, arrogant, or weak. But the reality is the complete opposite. Choosing not to engage with the unworthy doesn't weaken you. It makes you untouchable. It demonstrates, loudly and clearly, that you value yourself enough to protect your most precious resource. It proves you're no longer available to anyone who simply wants a piece of you for their own entertainment or validation. Imagine this scenario right now. Someone sends you a blatantly disrespectful message. Your old instinct is probably to fire back immediately, to defend your honor, to put them in their place, to win the argument. But stop and think, what does reacting actually accomplish? You've just given them exactly what they were fishing for: your reaction, your energy, your power. Now imagine the new you read the message, feel absolutely nothing, and delete it without a second thought. What happens next to that person? They sit there confused. They check to see if you've read it. They refresh obsessively. They might even send a follow-up trying to provoke you again. And the entire time, you're living your life completely unbothered, untouched, moving forward. That is the raw power of guarded attention. You become a fortress, impenetrable. The gates open only when you decide, and only for people who have truly earned entry. From this moment forward, treat your attention like solid gold, because it is. And gold doesn't get handed out to everyone. It goes only to the worthy. Drop this affirmation in the comments: my attention is gold. Number 2, silence is your sharpest weapon. You already know why most people are terrified of silence. They think it makes them look weak. They believe if they don't respond instantly, if they don't defend themselves vigorously, if they don't get the last word, then somehow they've lost the exchange. They equate silence with surrender. But here's the truth that flips the entire script. Silence is actually the most aggressive, most devastating move you can possibly make against someone who wants your reaction. When someone attacks you with words and you counter with more words, what really happens? You've willingly entered their game. You're now playing on their battlefield by their rules. You've given them precisely what they wanted most, a live reaction they can feed off of. And now both of you are trapped in an exhausting, pointless back and forth that serves no one except their ego. But when you choose silence instead, everything changes in an instant. The game collapses. The power dynamic flips violently. Suddenly, they're the one left standing there looking foolish, yelling at a brick wall, receiving absolutely nothing in return. Machiavelli watched this pattern destroy men over and over again. He saw ambitious politicians and nobles ruin their own futures by talking too much, explaining too much, reacting too much. And he noticed the ones who rose to real, lasting power were the ones who mastered the timing of speech, and more importantly, the art of staying completely silent. Silence communicates something words can never achieve: total, crushing indifference. It says without saying a single syllable, "You are not worth my words. You are not worth my energy. You don't even register as a blip on my radar." And that message, delivered through pure absence, destroys egos faster and more thoroughly than the sharpest insult ever could. Let me break it down even further so you feel the weight of this. When you reply to someone, you're validating their existence in your woe. RLD. You're admitting, implicitly, that what they said carried enough weight to deserve a crafted response. You're showing them they got under your skin, they affected you, they want a piece of your attention. But when you give them nothing, no reply, no emoji, no read receipt acknowledgement, you rob them of that validation entirely. They're left floating in a painful vacuum of uncertainty. Did you see it? Were you hurt? Do you even care? They'll never know. And that not knowing will eat away at them far more viciously than any clever comeback you could have typed. I've seen people spend days, sometimes weeks, obsessing over why someone didn't respond to a single message. They replay the interaction endlessly. They invent elaborate scenarios. They question their own worth, all triggered by nothing more than your silence. That is psychological warfare executed, without you ever lifting a finger. Another layer most people miss: the more you speak, the more ammunition you hand your enemies. Every sentence you utter becomes data they can analyze, twist, weaponize later. Every explanation reveals your insecurities. Every defense shows exactly which buttons to push next time. Silence. Silence gives them absolutely nothing to work with. No words to misquote. No emotions to exploit. They are left completely powerless. Of course, I'm not saying you should become mute forever. There are rare, high-leverage moments when your voice must be heard, when it serves your goals, advances your position, protects what matters. But those moments should be exceptional and calculated. The rest of the time, let silence do the heavy lifting, because the world will quickly learn one undeniable truth about why. Oh, when you do speak, it matters. Your words carry real weight precisely because you don't waste them on trivia. People start listening intently the moment you open your mouth, because they know you never talk just to fill empty space. Silence is not weakness. Silence is control. Silence is dominance. Silence is a weapon that never ever misses its target. Drop this affirmation in the comments: silence is power. Number 3. Withdraw strategically, not completely. This is where the majority of people who try to level up go completely wrong. They think the ultimate expression of power is to disappear entirely, to ghost everyone, cut all ties, isolate themselves like some brooding, mysterious hermit nobody can reach. That's not power. That's just fear disguised as strength. That's running away. Genuine next-level power comes from strategic withdrawal, not total disappearance. It's about remaining physically present in the world while staying emotionally untouchable. It's about showing up exactly when it benefits you and pulling back precisely when it doesn't. It's about making people feel the weight of your absence, even when you're standing right in front of them. Let me make the distinction crystal clear. Complete withdrawal, ghosting forever, turns you irrelevant. They move on. You fade from memory. No influence remains. That's not dominance, it's exit. Strategic withdrawal, however, keeps you very much in their orbit, while making you completely unpredictable. One day you're warm and engaging, the next you're distant and unavailable. Sometimes you respond quickly, sometimes you take days, sometimes you're fully present, sometimes you vanish without warning. You're in air life, but never fully in their control. And that contrast creates something incredibly dangerous for their ego: obsession. Machiavelli understood this principle perfectly. He watched history's most effective rulers and influencers maintain iron grip over people not by being omnipresent, but by being selective, rare, and therefore extraordinarily valuable. They manufactured scarcity. They made their presence a prize instead of a given. Think about romantic attraction for a clear example. Imagine someone who texts you every hour, responds in seconds, drops everything to make time for you no matter what. After a week or two, how do you feel? Suffocated, bored, maybe even slightly repulsed. Constant availability kills mystery and desire. Now flip it. Someone who contacts you sporadically. Sometimes fast replies, sometimes hours or days of silence. Sometimes they make plans, sometimes they're mysteriously busy. You never quite know when or if you'll hear from them next. How do you feel then? You think about them constantly. You check your phone hoping for a notification. You wonder what they're doing when they're not with you. That's strategic withdrawal creating fixation. And this principle doesn't just apply to dating, it works in friendships, business, social circles, family dynamics, literally everywhere. The person who drops everything for every call becomes the default backup plan. The person who is selective with their availability becomes the priority everyone chases. The key insight: you stay in the game, but you never let the game control you. You show up, but strictly on your terms. You engage, but only when it advances your agenda. This single behavior plants powerful seeds in other people's minds, uncertainty. They can't predict you. They can't manipulate you. They can't take you for granted. And uncertainty breeds deep respect. When you withdraw strategically, people begin to chase. They begin to wonder. They begin to value your presence precisely because they know it's never guaranteed. Your absence starts speaking louder than your words ever could. Your unavailability becomes irresistibly attractive. Your boundaries become the very source of your power. You don't need to vanish from the world entirely. You just need to force the world to work, really work, to keep you in it. Be present, but remain selective. Show up, but make them earn it. Stay connected, but never let them get comfortable. That's how you transform inaction into massive influence. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I choose my presence. Number 4, the mind-breaking effect of ignoring. Do you know what actually happens inside someone's brain the moment they realize you're deliberately ignoring them? Pure, unfiltered chaos. Their mind goes into hyperdrive trying to solve an unsolvable puzzle. They frantically search for reasons. They invent explanations. They construct entire mental narratives, all in a desperate attempt to understand why you gave them nothing. And while their brain is burning massive amounts of energy obsessing over you, you're not thinking about them at all. That asymmetry is the devastating core of ignoring's power. It's full-spectrum psychological warfare, and you don't even have to participate. They're fighting a brutal war inside their own head while you're miles away from the battlefield. Completely. Peace. Here's why it works so brut. Ali well. Human beings are biologically wired for closure. We crave resolution. We need to understand cause and effect. When someone treats us a certain way, especially negatively, our brain automatically launches a search for why. It's an automatic, unstoppable process. So when you ignore someone completely, when you give them zero information, zero reaction, zero anything, their brain short circuits. There's no closure, no explanation, no clear cause, just a gaping void. And that void becomes an open psychological wound that refuses to heal. Machiavelli observed this dynamic play out constantly. In the brutal arenas of politics and court intrigue, he watched leaders who felt compelled to answer every critic, counter every rumor, defend against every accusation, end up trapped in endless, exhausting cycles of reaction. But the leaders who simply ignored their enemies, those enemies eventually destroyed themselves through obsession, paranoia, and self-inflicted frustration. Picture it. Someone sends you a deliberately hateful, provocative message. Their entire goal is to get under your skin, to provoke anger, to feel important by eliciting a response. You now have two paths. Path 1, you reply. You tell them off. You defend your character. You try to hurt them back. Outcome? They win. They got your attention. They got your emotional energy. They got proof they matter to you. Even if your comeback is flawless and you win, the argument, they still win, because they successfully pulled you into their low-level game. Path 2, complete, total, merciless ignoring. You don't acknowledge the message exists. You don't read receipt. You don't block, because blocking is still engagement. You simply erase it from your reality. What happens to them? They stare at their screen. They wonder if it delivered. They refresh obsessively. They might send a follow-up jab. They vent to friends hoping for validation. They think about you for days, maybe weeks. Meanwhile, you forgot about them 5 seconds after seeing the notification. Who truly dominated that exchange? When you ignore someone, you're effectively telling them, "You do not exist in my reality." You're erasing them. And psychological erasure hurts far more than any insult, any argument, any direct confrontation, because at least in a fight they are seen. At least in an argument they are acknowledged. But in silence, they are nothing, invisible, irrelevant, and the human ego cannot tolerate that reality. The beauty of this tactic, it works on literally everyone who doesn't deserve space in your life. Haters, critics, toxic exes, energy vampires, petty rivals. The instant you withdraw your attention, you withdraw their power. They become ghosts screaming into an empty void that doesn't care. You don't need revenge. You don't need the last word. You don't need to prove anything. Your indifference is the cleanest, most devastating form of destruction. Your silence is the final unanswerable blow. Your absence is the perfect silent punishment. Let them obsess, let them spiral, let them break themselves, trying to figure you out. While you keep moving forward as though they never existed. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I erase the unworthy. Number 5, erase the unworthy completely. Now we get surgical. Not everyone deserves the same level of ignoring. Some people need to be completely erased from your life with zero ambiguity. There are 3 distinct categories that must be removed ruthlessly, each requiring a slightly different flavor of finality. First, your true enemies. I'm not talking about people who simply disagree with you or compete in a healthy way. I'm talking about the ones actively plotting against you, the ones spreading vicious lies, the ones trying to sabotage your progress, the ones who smile warmly to your face while sharpening knives for your back. Most people make the fatal mistake of trying to expose these snakes. They want the world to see the truth. They want justice. They want to defend their reputation publicly. But Machiavelli would tell you clearly, engaging with true enemies validates them. It gives them a stage. It keeps them relevant. It feeds their relevance. Instead, erase them. Don't expose. Don't confront. Don't even acknowledge their existence. Keep winning quietly. Keep building relentlessly. Keep rising higher. And let your undeniable success become the slow, excruciating torture they cannot escape. Nothing punishes a true enemy more than watching you thrive while they're stuck drowning in their own bitterness. Second, the chronic critics. These are the sideline warriors who produce nothing, create nothing, risk nothing, but have endless opinions about everyone who actually dares to play the game. They live to tear down. Their entire identity depends on having someone to criticize. Here's the cold reality. Critics need you far more than you need them. Without a target, they have no purpose, no identity, no oxygen. So when you react to them, when you defend, when you try to prove them wrong, you're feeding the very thing keeping them alive. Cut them off completely. Not with anger, not with long explanations, just pure, unrelenting indifference. Let them scream into the void. Let them write their essay-length takedowns. Let them form their little echo chamber support groups. While they're busy criticizing, you're busy succeeding, and real success doesn't argue with criticism. It renders criticism irrelevant. Third, and most dangerous, energy parasites. These are the most insidious, because they're disguised as friends or close connections. They're not obvious enemies. They're not loud, public critics. They're the ones who slowly, quietly drain your life force, without you even realizing the damage until you're empty. They always have a crisis. They always need urgent advice. They always have a problem only you can solve. And because you're a good person, you help, again and again and again. But here's the brutal truth you must accept. They never actually get better. The crises never end. The problems multiply. Because they're not seeking solutions. They're seeking attention, emotional supply, your energy. These people are emotional vampires. They feed on your time, your empathy, your mental space, and they give almost nothing back. Worse, they weaponize guilt. The moment you set a boundary, they make you feel selfish, cold, uncaring. But protecting your energy is not selfish, it's survival. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot support others and you're running on fumes. You cannot be strong for the people who truly matter if parasites have bled you dry. So what do you do with all three categories? Enemies, critics, parasites? You erase them. Not dramatically, not publicly, not with announcements or blow-ups. Quietly, completely, permanently. Stop replying to messages. Stop showing up to their drama. Stop giving any fragment of attention, energy or life to them. Treat them as invisible, because in your reality, they are invisible. Your time is finite. Your energy is precious. Your attention is irreplaceable. None of it should ever again go to people who subtract from your life, instead of adding. Erase the unworthy. Clear the space. Watch how fast your entire world transforms when only the deserving remain. Number 6. Build the armor of indifference. The only reason anyone can manipulate you, control you, drain you, or disturb your peace is because you haven't yet built proper armor. And that armor has a name: indifference. Let me be very precise about what indifference actually means in this context. It is not being emotionless. It is not apathy toward everything and everyone. It is total sovereign control over what is allowed to affect your inner state. It is having such deep self-security that external chaos, opinions, attacks, and disrespect literally cannot penetrate your core peace. Most people live as emotional hostages their entire lives. Someone insults them, entire day ruined. Someone shows disrespect, anger lingers for days or weeks. Someone questions their decisions, self-doubt floods in. Their emotions are completely at the mercy of other people's words, actions, and opinions. That is not power. That is slavery. Machiavelli watched powerful men fall, not because they lacked physical strength or intelligence, but because they were emotionally defenseless. Their anger made them predictable. Their pride made them easy to bait. Their desperate need to be right made them controllable. Enemies exploited those emotional cracks until the mighty collapsed under their own reactivity. The ones who survived and thrived built emotional armor so thick that nothing could touch their core. They cared deeply about their mission, their vision, their legacy. But they cared nothing about the noise, nothing about petty opinions, nothing about slights or disrespect. They were untouchable, not because attacks never landed, but because nothing ever stuck. Here's exactly how you forge that armor. Step 1. Identify your emotional triggers. What makes you angry? What makes you defensive? What makes you feel compelled to explain yourself? Those are your weak points. The cracks enemies, conscious or unconscious, will exploit every time. Maybe being called lazy sets you off, so you launch into long justifications of your work ethic. Maybe being misunderstood triggers you, so you spend hours clarifying intentions. Maybe feeling disrespected makes your blood boil, so you explode or stew in resentment. Each of those reactions hands control to others. Step 2. Neutralize those triggers through practiced indifference. Someone calls you lazy? You already know your work ethic. Their opinion is irrelevant noise. No response required. Someone misunderstands your intentions? People will always project their own stories. Let them. It costs you nothing. Someone disrespects you? Their behavior reveals everything about their character and nothing about yours. Move on without breaking stride. When you reach the point where nothing external can dictate your internal state, you become impossible to manipulate, impossible to break, impossible to control. People will still test you. They'll push old buttons expecting old explosions. When they get nothing, no anger, no defense, no explanation, they either begin to respect you deeply, or they quietly disappear. Either outcome is victory. The armor of indifference doesn't mean you stop feeling entirely. It means you decide what you feel, when you feel it, and for how long. It means your emotions serve your goals instead of ruling your life. It means you are finally in the driver's seat. Build that armor. Strengthen it every single day. Watch how quickly the world loses all power over you. Drop this affirmation in the comments. Nothing controls me. Number 7. Ascend through calculated inaction. Most people believe power is about action, how hard you hustle, how fiercely you fight, how relentlessly you prove yourself to the world. They think dominance requires constant motion, constant achievement, constant visibility. Machiavelli saw something far deeper. He understood that sometimes the single most powerful move you can make is no move at all. Calculated inaction is the high art of winning battles by refusing to fight them. It's recognizing that some enemies destroy themselves without any help from you. It's mastering the patience to let toxic situations burn out while you conserve your energy for what truly matters. Let me give you concrete examples so you feel the difference. Scenario 1. Someone starts spreading vicious rumors. Out you. Old version of you, panic mode. You rush to defend yourself. You message people to set the record straight. You try to control the narrative. You exhaust yourself fighting a battle that doesn't deserve your participation. New version of you, calculated inaction. You do absolutely nothing. You continue living with integrity. You keep producing results. You keep building your name. What happens? The truth surfaces organically. People of quality already know your character. The rumor mongers eventually look desperate and foolish when their lies don't match your reality, and you didn't waste a single drop of energy. Scenario 2. A competitor starts copying your style, your moves, trying to outshine you. Old you engages. You speed up to stay ahead. You change your approach to throw them off. You acknowledge the rivalry. You turn it into a race. New you, complete non-engagement. You stay laser-focused on your own path. You keep innovating, not because of them, but because it's who you are. While they're busy watching your every move, studying you, trying to catch up, you're already creating distance they can never close. Not because you raced harder, but because you refused to race at all. That's the elegance of calculated inaction. You attract without chasing. You dominate without confrontation. You shift entire social dynamics without uttering a word. People become obsessed with you because you're unpredictable. They can't figure you out because you don't react like everyone else. They can't manipulate you because you refuse to engage their tactics. They can't truly compete with you because you're playing an entirely different game, one they don't even understand. Our silence becomes legendary. Your absence becomes magnetic. Your indifference becomes the topic of conversation, in rooms you never even enter. And the most beautiful part, while everyone else burns their finite energy on drama, reactions, defenses, and pointless proofs of worth, you're conserving yours. You're investing it in real goals, real growth, real power. This is how true ascension happens. Not by climbing over bodies, not by fighting your way to the top, but by refusing, categorically, to descend to levels that don't serve you, by protecting your energy so fiercely that only the truly worthy ever gain access, by being so selective with your presence that your absence creates more impact than your loudest words ever could. Calculated inaction is not laziness, it is strategy, it is wisdom, it is power in its purest, most refined form. In this session you've witnessed the mind-breaking psychological effect of deliberate ignoring, exactly who deserves to be erased completely from your life, enemies, critics, energy parasites, how to forge unbreakable armor of indifference so no one can control your emotional state, how to ascend rapidly through the disciplined practice of calculated inaction, winning without ever fighting. These aren't motivational platitudes. These are ancient laws of power. If you apply them consistently, ruthlessly, strategically, your entire existence will shift in ways most people can only dream about. People will start treating you differently. More respect, more caution, more desire to earn your attention. They'll chase you instead of you chasing them. They'll value your presence because they've learned it can vanish at any moment. They'll fear your silence because they know it means you're done with them forever. But none of this works unless you commit, truly commit, starting right now, not tomorrow, not next week, right now. The next time someone tries to bait you into a reaction, don't bite. The next time someone demands an explanation you don't owe, don't give it. The next time you feel the old urge to prove yourself to someone unworthy, resist with everything you have. From this moment forward, you operate on a different frequency. You are untouchable. You attract through absence. You reign through silence. This is the ruthless art Machiavelli perfected centuries ago, and now it belongs to you. So I'm going to ask you one final time. Are you ready to stop giving your power away? Are you ready to become the most untouchable, most magnetic, most dominant version of yourself? If your answer is yes, prove it. Drop "I am untouchable" in the comments right now. Speak it. Claim it. Make it real. And before you go, if this message opened your eyes, hit that like button, share it with someone who desperately needs to hear it, and subscribe, because we're only getting started on this journey. You're untouchable now.